Welcome back to Mac Music Review, and welcome to one of the most important years for music of the 2010s, and who knows, maybe even the 2020s, because 2012 was the year of debut albums. It was a year when a lot of, not necessarily debut projects, artists that had already existed, but 2012 was the year that already good artists really defined themselves and really gained a following and really gained a critical acclaim and attention and really, created a fan base. And you'll see what I mean with basically every album on this list. They are all albums that were first major label official albums that just put these artists on the map, and these are artists that continue to define the 2010s. And yeah, here we go. I'll kick things off with the honorable mentions. My first one is King's Kaleidoscope made this EP called Asaph's Arrows, which I think is just amazing. One of the best albums in their discography, like better than some of their albums. It's so good. Right now, it's not under the name King's Kaleidoscope. It's under the name Kings, and then in parentheses, MHM, which stands for Mars Hill Music, which is the church that they came from. But it's, in case you didn't know, it's a Christian band. That is pretty awesome. And this album is more straightforward than some of their other albums, but just fantastic. So good. Babble by Mumford and Sons. I actually liked it. I listened to it very recently. I thought it was just full of passion, wholesome lyrics, just very wholesome, fun, makes you feel alive. It's good. It's not my thing. It's not stuff that I typically listen to, but I can see the appeal, and I think it's a very good album. 10 Stories by Me Without You. I'll link a description. I'll link the review because I reviewed this fairly recently. I think it's a very good album, but it's just not my favorite in terms of the band's discography. It's actually one of my least favorite albums by that band, by Me Without You, but I love Me Without You so much that it's still a very, very good album, so I included it in the honorable mentions. Silver and Gold by Sufjan Stevens, a Christmas album, his second Christmas album, arguably more ambitious than his first, with the production at least. The first one's very stripped back, and it's pretty awesome. It has like 80 songs, so have fun with that. The Money Store by Death Grips, the best Death Grips album probably. I'll link my review of this also in the description. I'm not a fan of Death Grips. I barely ever listen to this album, but I have to respect it because it's really great. And finally, two more albums. The Idler Wheel by Fiona Apple, not my thing. People absolutely love this album. This is one of the most critically acclaimed albums of the 2010s, and it just has never clicked with me. I think it's great, but I can't get into it. And then Gossamer by Passion Pit. Of course, I love Passion Pit. I don't know why I said of course. I haven't really, well, have I talked about them on the channel? I don't remember if I've reviewed this one, I'll link it in the description, but I don't know if I have. I don't remember. Anyway, that's it for the honorable mentions. Let's hop into the top 10 albums of 2012. Swing Low Magellan by Dirty Projectors. This is a cool album, and one of the only not debut albums on this list. Basically everything is a debut or something, but this is, this was like their first album of the 2010s, and I heard it was their last album as the band Dirty Projectors. After this, they sort of broke up, and they did eventually, the band Dirty Projectors eventually did release new music, but the actual members of the band had left, and it was just the main guy releasing music at that point, and then whatever, you don't need the story. You need to know why this is a good album. This is an acoustic album by a band that does almost all electronic stuff. They are defined by their chiptune, pixely, not really pixely, but just kind of these really upbeat, quirky experimental slash like electro production. And it's a very cool, fun sound, but this album is really great, and possibly my favorite thing they've done. It has all that quirkiness of the singer and all the quirkiness of the lyrics, but with just more straightforward, authentic music that is very good. And it's a warm, welcoming, good album. Lonerism by Tame Impala at number 9. This is a good album. It's not my favorite Tame Impala album, and it took me a really, really long time to get into this. And it's still not my favorite. I'm listening to it and I'm like, it's pretty great. Really great production, good vocals, even good lyrics. It's very impressive, and it is their most critically acclaimed album. I can see the appeal, but it's not my thing, man. This is not the one that I listen to. This is not the one. I like Tame Impala when they're just making bangers, when they're just having fun, and that's what they're doing exactly on their album, The Slow Rush, which is just awesome. I love The Slow Rush. But this thing is good. This is a really good album. My Head is an Animal by Of Monsters and Men. This is an album that I haven't listened to in a while. I include it on this list, but it's been a while since I've heard it. I used to absolutely love it, and it still holds up. It's still an amazing album. Really, really great songwriting. It really is like Mumford & Sons, but like not American. Like Mumford & Sons is like painfully American, and this is like, it's like Icelandic. It's like Icelandic Mumford & Sons. Just huge, just larger than life production, whimsical lyrics, whimsical magical lyrics that are kind of emit a similar vibe to Owl City with how whimsical and crazy they could be. But Of Monsters and Men really peaked at this album, and their other albums have been disappointing and haven't been great. But what they did with this, the magic they captured with this is really unique and special, and I highly recommend you check this out. It did not get the positive acclaim that it deserved. All because the government hate rap music. Rap Music by Killer Mike. It's good. It's a good album. It's got some awesome songs on it. This is one of those albums that to me is so great, not because of how it functions as an album, but just by having great songs on it. And those great songs are songs like Reagan and Don't Die and The Ghetto Gospel and Go and JoJo's Chillin' or JoJo's Chicken. I don't remember. There's another song called like Southern Fried. It is a album that is just so angry and so just so good from a production standpoint, so good from a vocal perspective. Killer Mike is just nailing these songs. I would say that this is even better than most of the Run the Jewels albums. Like, Rap Music is just an awesome album. It even it's like a Run the Jewels album without LP doing vocals, because LP did the production, or a lot of the production. So it is like it's like a Run the Jewels album, but like the punchiest, most fun, awesome, like hard-hitting Run the Jewels album. Besides, of course, RTJ 2, which is the best RTJ. Anyway, great album. Fear, Fun, Fear, Love. I won't finish the lyric. From the Lana Del Rey album. Fear, Fun. Number 6. It's pretty awesome. I like this album a lot. It is not the best Father John Misty, but I don't care. This album feels like you are in a candy store. It feels like you are in a candy store walking. I'll include my Father John Misty albums ranked on this. But you are in a candy store and you're walking around and there's some candy here and there's some candy there. And I haven't tried that candy. You've been in this candy store like several times. But then you come back and you're like, that one's got a cool, colorful package. Or I haven't seen this candy before, and you'll try that candy. And then the second time you try, maybe you didn't like it so much the first time, but the second time you enjoy it more for some reason. Like you're noticing something about the flavor that you didn't notice the first time. The album is just a treat. It's just like you're in Willy Wonka's factory and you found a new room the second time you come back. Every time you come back to this album, you get more out of it. And it's just so, so good. A Wave, An Awesome Wave by Alt J. An Awesome Wave is a cool album. This is a really cool album. It captures a very specific vibe, a very specific tone, and it's extremely abstract. It's a very, very abstract album that's not electronic music, which it feels like it's accomplishing a similar goal as electronic music, and not every song is great, but the overall aesthetic of the album is just so, so good. And there's so many great songs: Blood Flood, Taro, Handmade, just Fitz Pleasure. I'm not a huge fan of the song Breeze Blocks. That one falls a little bit short, but most of the album is just really great songs, a really great aesthetic, and once again, just like My Head is an Animal, this album is super underrated. Dude, people are not talking about it. Critics, or the critics who did talk about it, didn't like it. Like, it did not get critical acclaim, but it does have a strong fan base and strong fan following, I believe, and it deserves it. It's an excellent album. Channel Orange Frank Ocean. Let's go. Number 4. This is awesome. This is probably one of the greatest R&B albums ever made. And I'm saying that from the perspective of someone who doesn't like... definitely, I can easily say that one of the best of the 2010s. That's not hard to say. But this album is just so good, so original, so special. You can't even compare this to another Frank Ocean album. It's totally different than Blonde, 100% different. It's way more simple and stripped back, and there's some beauty. There's a lot of beauty in the simplicity of this album, and the way it flows, and the lyrics, and his awesome, amazing voice, and the very simple production. Super Rich Kids, Thinking About You, Pyramids. There's so many amazing songs. It's a really, really great album. That's not my favorite by him, but I like Blonde better, but it is still a really, really great album. Excellent by Propaganda. This is an interesting album. This is an interesting one because it's kind of short. It's not that long of an album. It has like 2 skits on it. It ends on a skit, and the title track is the skit. I can't think of another album where the title track was a skit. Like, that's weird that would be what the album is. It's not even a song. It is one of the most emotionally compelling albums I've ever heard. Like, still. And I was listening to this. I listened to Frank Ocean, and I was like, wow, that's pretty great. And then I listened to Excellent, and I was like, dang. Like, this is a lot. It's a lot to take in. And it's something that you should listen to many times, but I think it will have that impact on first listen. It did for me. And I kind of forget about this album because it's not good for casual listening at all. Outside of a few tracks, it's really not something you can just listen to casually. You got to listen to it like all at once as an album, as an experience. But it's pretty great. Good Kid, Mad City, number 2. This is not my favorite. This is not my favorite Frank Ocean. This is not my favorite Kendrick Lamar. My bad. This is not my favorite Kendrick Lamar album. But it is a classic. It's one of the best rap albums of the 2010s, arguably one of the best rap albums of all time, one of the best debut albums of all time. It's insanely impressive for a debut album. It's unbelievable how good this is. He did do a mixtape, Section 80, but that was more of a mixtape than an album, and this is an album, so this is his debut album. Incredible. Just really classic, amazing songs on here. I really don't have anything special to say about it. Other people have praised this album to the moon and back. Universally, everyone loves it, so not much to say. If you haven't heard it, what are you doing with your life? My number 1 is actually made by a woman. It's made by a woman. This is surprising because in all of my best albums of the 2010s, none of them are by a woman. They're all men. And I noticed that, and I was like, this is just a fun fact. My best album of 2020, on the other hand, was by a woman, but it was Fetch the Bolt Cutters by Fiona Apple. But all my other ones were by men. But here we go. Visions by Grimes. This album, and this is always what I say. Remember, have you seen my other videos? My number 1, I always make an album that transcends music in some way, that transcends the typical album. It has to transcend. It has to go above and beyond. It can't just be an album that's great. It has to be an album that does something that other albums don't do. And Visions does not feel like an album. It's not something that you can listen to as just a regular album. It's literally, like, I can't even describe it with words. It's impossible. Just the way to experience this album, you're tired, 10, 11 o'clock at night, I don't know, whenever you go to sleep after like a long day, put in your earbuds, listen to the album front to back. And experience it that way. That's the way to experience this album. But you can listen to it in the daytime. It's not the same. It doesn't have the same effect. But it's still pretty great. But that's when it really shines, when, at night, when you're dozing off or trying to doze off. It's pretty awesome. That's all I got. 2012, great year for music. A really great year for new talent. Kendrick Lamar, Grimes, Alt J. I mean, that's, even though they didn't continue, same with Of Monsters and Men, they really didn't live up to their debut in any of their other records. The rest are all just disappointing compared to the debut. Father John Misty, Frank Ocean, I guess Tame Impala, technically. They did it like a project before, but I thought that was kind of labeled as like a mixtape. It wasn't really like a major label album, the one that came out before Lonerism, I believe. I could be wrong on that. Yeah. Great year for music. Grimes. Have a great rest of your day.